Welcome to the Suffering Meatball Chronicles, the podcast where we relive the sound and the sweet chaos of live music. We are your hosts, Johnny Epiphone, and I'm Rob Henry. And here's the deal. This show is all about concerts we've seen, the stories we've lived, and the moments that made us feel alive, even if the details are a little fuzzy.
We may not always remember the exact dates, the full set lists, or even the band names. Please don't judge us. But we remember how it felt, from tiny dive bars to massive stadiums, from legendary acts to that one guy with the harmonica. This is our passion for live shows, loud nights, and the beautiful mess of music fandom.
So grab a drink, settle in, and let's stumble down memory lane, because even if the facts aren't perfect, the vibes are. Welcome back to another episode of Suffering Meatball Chronicles with myself, Rob Henry, and Johnny Judge.
Hey, everybody.
Yes, Johnny Judge is also known by Johnny Epiphone. That's his legal name. So I know him as Johnny Judge, but he is his name is Johnny Epiphone. So we're here to reminisce about a show we saw that was really special to both of us. It was a great journey, and to this day, I have really great fond memories of that whole show. It was a Ron Asheton Tribute in 2011, on April 19th, 2011, in Michigan at the Michigan Theater.
In Ann Arbor, Michigan.
In Ann Arbor, Michigan. Yes, in Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Ron's home. Well, no, not Ron's hometown, because Ron was born in D.C., but moved to Ann Arbor when he was a youngster.
Yes, he was born right here where I was born, except he was born across the river, I guess. If officially it's Washington, D.C. And yourself too, right? You were born here?
I was born in D.C., actually.
Yeah. All right. So there you go. Now you have something in common with Ron Asheton, other than your love of his screaming guitar and great lyrics. So, little story behind Ron Asheton. He was a founding member of the Stooges back in early 60s. And Johnny and I have been Stooges fans for a long time. You kind of dragged me into being a Stooges fan, you and Mike, my brother. And over the years, I've really gone deep into the Stooges music, and I still love it. I was listening to it before we started doing the broadcast, and I just it's so powerful in so many ways.
That is a definite yes.
So do you want to tell us a little bit about Ron Asheton? Johnny, I want to give you that opportunity to tell us.
Sure. Well, Ron was a founding member. He played guitar in the Stooges and was the author of many of their great tracks, with Iggy Pop doing the lyrics, of course. And Ron and his brother Scott, who played drums in the Stooges, were both born in D.C. and moved to Ann Arbor when they were in their teens, I believe. And they went to high school with Iggy. And
right. And that's when it formed.
Yes.
That's when the Great Stooges was formed, with those three guys.
And Dave Alexander on bass, of course, the late Dave Alexander.
Right. And at that time, there was no music like this.
No,
really.
Not at all.
At all. And yeah, there was a lot going on, the war in Vietnam and all the unrest and stuff, the tragic stuff that happened at that college in Ohio and things like that, and protesters, and the world was changing, right?
Yes, the world was not ready for the Stooges.
They were not,
because when their first album came out in 1969, it sold underwhelmingly. Unfortunately,
Oh
It's a
yeah.
touchstone of punk rock now as a precursor to punk, but when it was released originally, it flopped.
Yes. Yes, because it was recorded in a garage, somewhere, I'm sure, on a reel-to-reel tape that probably had been used too many times. But okay, so the show happened in 2011 in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Ron died on January 6th, 2009. And the band members and the community of people that, love the Stooges and played in the Stooges and were influenced by the Stooges all came together for this special show this one night at the Ann Arbor Theater. And the company that I work for, the gentleman by the name of John Veritos, who now I believe still owns old CBGBs and has his own clothing line there at that store. He had a radio show on Faction. It was
Oh,
Faction Radio on Sirius XM. And I got the opportunity to go and be the radio engineer and put it on the air on Faction Live. We did a pre-show, and that was how we got the opportunity to go to the show. Right, the minute I heard that this was happening, I called Johnny and got Mike on the phone, and we worked it out. We jumped in a company truck. We drove all the gear and all our stuff all the way to Clarksburg, West Virginia, where my brother lived.
yes.
And
Crashed on his floor.
right, I think we left late, and it took us a long time to get out of Washington, all that other stuff, and we kind of showed up that afternoon in Clarksville, West Virginia, and what I was thinking was really typical of an Appalachian mountain home, right?
Oh, yeah.
I felt grateful to be there with you and Mike and his wife, Cheryl, and her sister,
Jody.
Jody. They were very gracious, let us into their home. We had a meal together and just partied throughout the night. And with the, we were going to get up the next morning and drive the rest of the way to Michigan.
Yeah, and the whole reason we were there was to pick up Mike.
Right. We went and picked up Mike on our way to this show. And
sorry, I interrupted you, and
that's okay.
evidently
that's
screwed
okay.
up your
I'm
train
trying to
of
figure
thought.
out how. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to explain it. So we're there at this house in Clarksville, West Virginia, and my brother and his wife and his sister are all living in the house. And
And
Mike mentions
they had cats
Mike,
too, right? Sorry, but
yeah, I believe so, and a dog, right?
did they have it? Oh, yeah.
And somehow, I got this. Okay, so somehow at the end of the night, we're sitting on that back porch, and Mike was was telling us a story about him seeing an apparition in their backyard. If you remember that, I don't know if you were standing there, and
I
that's how this
remember,
whole trip to this haunted railroad tunnel
Confederate soldiers
kind of came
or
about.
Union
Yeah,
soldiers.
Confederate soldiers. Right. He saw, I don't know what, I think it was an apparition of a woman. There was like a dilapidated barn behind that house, like nobody had been into for like a really long time. And because I asked Mike if he ever went in there, and he's like, no, I'll never go in there. And it's not my property. I'm not going to go snoop around in there. And then he told me about how he saw an apparition. And so it came to come to I basically was calling him out and saying, no, you did not. I was like, there's really, come on, right? Sure. You must have been high or something, because you sure it wasn't lights from the cars going by on the road up on the mountain. He was like, no, I saw it. So we decided to go to this haunted railroad tunnel. Like, he convinced me. I think you stayed behind, right, Johnny? I
Yeah,
don't
I
think
don't
you
want any part of
went to this.
apparitions.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was, a few beers in, and I was calling him out, and it was him and two other guys. Um, right now, their names escape me, but one of them was a park worker, so it kind of felt like, okay, this guy works for the park system. Yeah, because it's this huge trail, right? The old railroad went from Clarksburg into Ohio. They used to carry, this is like what year? 1800s, late 1800s. This railroad would bring supplies from the Ohio Valley all the way into Baltimore and into the DC area and this East Coast area. And it's been decommissioned, and they turned it into a park area, and they built trails, and you can go ride your bike there and take your dog there, and it's a really cool, like, national monument thing, and it was very well kept. So we get to the tunnel, and there's four of us, and they're like, do you hear anything? Do you hear anything? Go in there, put your ear up to the tunnel and see if you can hear anything. Well, it was pitch dark in that tunnel, man. It was about 11 o'clock at night when we got there. And um, it was kind of silly. I drank a couple of beers. I remember crushing a beer can and talking to the guy that worked for the Park Service. And I'm like, oh, okay, so you work for Park Service. And I threw the beer can on the ground and said, I guess I'm keeping you employed. And we all had a good laugh about that, right? Because I threw my beer can down in the beer tunnel. And the other guy and I were Mike and the railroad, the Park Service gentlemen were kind of pushing us into the tunnel to go in there further, man. You'll see, horses coming at you and stuff, and like crazy sounds and stuff. I'm like, get out of here. This is you guys are so full of crap. And so, but I ended up like, okay, I'll walk down the tunnel, and I turned my flashlight off, and the other guy kept walking forward, and he went forward about 30 feet. And I was, maybe 10, 12, 15 feet from Mike and this other guy. And it's so pitch dark in there, you can't see. All you see is the flashlight, right? So you see this guy's flashlight going into the tunnel. And I turn around and double back through the darkness and scare Mike and this guy. Oh, they almost peed their pants. I was like, there's a ghost. And I lit up my flashlight really quick, and they freaked out. And it was a funny moment. We laughed about that all the way home, that those guys almost pissed themselves because the guy that was going down the tunnel was like, I don't know. He felt like he was some kind of spiritual guy. Like he could pull the spirits out.
Oh, like a medium.
Talk to them. Yeah, like a medium, but not. I wouldn't call him a medium. Maybe he was gifted and could feel spirits, but he wasn't a medium. Whatever if he was very bad at it. And so we had fun at that railroad tunnel, and I just wanted to tell that story because I almost made my brother piss his pants in the railroad tunnel looking for ghosts, and I never saw anything. I didn't hear anything. Your mind plays tricks on you when people mention stuff, and you're at a dark tunnel, and they're like, "Oh, hear the horses," and then you think that you hear horses. But I didn't really. I just went along with it, like, yeah, man. Oh, I hear it. Oh, but I got this opportunity to scare Mike. And,
excellent.
That was a lot of fun. Yeah. So then we went back to the house, and we fell asleep, and we got up the next morning and drove to Ann Arbor, Michigan,
via Ohio.
Yeah, via Ohio. You want to talk about that trip a little bit and where we ended up?
That was my first time going through Ohio in a lot, since maybe no, not ever, because of course I'd go through Ohio when Mike used to live in Ann Arbor to go visit him, but I had never been from West Virginia to Ann Arbor before. And we had real fun. I remember stopping at a restaurant somewhere in Ohio, and we just had it was just a fun trip. We were just cracking jokes the whole time, listening to music, talking, just total laid back funness.
Yeah. Yeah, it was fun, a lot of fun taking that road trip all the way up to I guess we, from Clarksburg, we hit the Ohio Turnpike, and then we took a right at Toledo and went
Yes.
up into Michigan. So it took us a few hours. I mean, it was all day drive up there. We ended up getting up there probably mid afternoon, I would
Do
think.
you remember the road from hell when we took a we there was traffic on was it I-94 that we're on? That
Right.
traffic got so bad that we took an alternate route from the GPS, and it was the road from hell with potholes every two inches.
Oh yeah, man. It sent us down. Yeah, that Siri has a tendency to do that. But yeah, we were. Yeah,
Because we
I
were
do.
on our way to your sister and brother-in-law's place in Brighton.
Yes, yes, we were headed to Brighton. Brighton's a sleepy little small town outside of well, at that time was. And I don't know about now. I haven't been there since, but yeah, and my sister Pat and her husband John own a home up there, and that's their
And it's on a
that's
lake,
their home.
right? Yeah, they were on a
It is
lake.
on a
Yeah,
lake.
it was beautiful.
Yeah,
Beautiful
yeah,
house, beautiful countryside.
yeah. So yeah, and that was kind of the deal with me going up there is I didn't have to really pay anything for accommodations, so it was cheap to the company, and I was able to sell me going up there and doing this and taking the truck, and there we are at my sister's house in Brighton, Michigan. And I remember being at that house and just visiting with family and having fun and meeting her dog, and again eating another great meal and all together, and just laughing and having fun in that house, and seeing my nieces, and I don't think I saw Jack, their oldest son. I think he was away or something like that, but I do remember seeing Stella, and I do remember seeing Rose and spending some time with them and hanging out that night. And woke up the next morning, and I had to go into Ann Arbor to the theater to start setting up, and it snowed. It
Oh
snowed.
yeah, I forgot about the
It snowed.
snow.
I had prepared everything in my mind. I had, when I do these types of things, and I'm the engineer, you spend a lot of time thinking about what you'll need in case of anything. And I just was not prepared for snow.
No, it was
Didn't have the
April.
right shoes. I didn't even think I had a jacket with me. I probably had a hoodie. You know what I mean? No gloves, no nothing. There's no ice scraper in this truck, nothing. But it didn't last long. It was just that morning, and it was enough to freak me out by saying, I prepared for everything except for snow.
Right. Yeah, it was
Um,
crazy.
right. So I go to the theater. I set up. We're in a small little back room to do the live broadcast, and that all went really successful. Really proud of what we did that day by getting that stuff on the air and letting the world hear this special show about Ron Asheton and the tribute to Ron Asheton. And that was done on his 60th birthday
Oh
or
yeah,
70th birthday. It
60th.
was done
Yeah.
on 60th birthday, right? No, he died at age 60, but the show was done on his birthday. It
Oh, that's
wasn't.
right.
Yeah, it
I
was.
was wrong.
Sorry, he wasn't. It wasn't 10 years later, but it was done. April 19th was his birthday. No, wait a minute. How can that be? I don't know. I'm reading conflicting things online, but who cares? And everything went well with broadcast. Since I was broadcasting the show, I really wasn't in the auditorium during the actual performance, but I did get to sit there with probably a handful of people to watch the rehearsal by myself
Oh
because I
wow.
knew that I knew that, okay, so I had this small little 5-inch monitor for reference so that those guys who were doing the broadcast could, explain, what's happening on stage and go out and be part of it when it happened, right? They did a pre-show all the way up, and they were looking at the monitors to see when the festivities began, because it wasn't just like any old show, right? There was some heartfelt moments and things like that. But I didn't get to see the show, Johnny. You were in the auditorium. Tell everybody where you were seated, the journey, to get there, right? I mean, you guys, while I was setting up, you were hanging with John Carver and my brother,
And your
right, during
sister,
the day.
Pat, she was there.
And, oh, she was there too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was fun. The amazingly funny thing was, before the show started and the Space Toasters came out, which was a high school band that Ron had championed, is somebody was coming to sit in the seat next to me, and I'm like, oh, I was kind of like taking up 2 seats standing, and I was like, I should get up and make room for them. Well, I mean, I was up, but I should make room so they can get to their seat. And I look over, and the guy that's coming is my friend Jeff, who I'd met in Australia when I went to go see Radio Birdman in 1996. He was from Philly, and he was there at the show. And it was just a totally random thing where he was.
And he got the seat next to you.
He got the seat next to me. Yeah, he was there with a guy from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame who John Carver knew.
Wow.
It was just it was completely random and funny.
Well, let's talk about the Michigan Theater a little bit, right?
Oh, beautiful theater, man.
Yeah, it's an historic theater in downtown Ann Arbor. It was built in 1927 and then renovated in 56 and then again in 78. And the community took a hold of it in 78 and restored it back to its original greatness. And they still have shows there. It's still a viable theater. I don't think it's owned by Live Nation, which makes it kind of cool.
Yeah.
Right. I know it's owned by the city of Ann Arbor. It seats about 1,700 people. Through a really, really neat theater. If you ever get to go see a show there, you should go, because it's really cool Art Deco piece of history that there's not a lot of these buildings left or these theaters left.
And your niece worked there, Rose.
Right. So while I was setting up, I was kind of all over that theater, and all of a sudden I run into Rose, and she neglected to tell me that she was working at the theater. So that even made it even more special. But my brother-in-law, John Carver, got you and Mike tickets and took my sister Pat, and you were sitting next to your friend and 1,700 people, 1,700 other people that were there. And just a little bit of more context for this show. His former bandmates, were holding this tribute concert to honor Ron's legacy and his music. And his sister, Kathy Ashton,
right,
and Iggy put the show together to honor the late great Ron Asheton. And in addition to his brother, Ron's brother,
Scott,
and Scott, helped put all this thing together. So, do you want to kind of tell us a little bit more about the show?
Oh, well, we had great seats. We were, I don't know, maybe 20 rows back from the front of the stage, a little to the stage right. And it was great. It started out with the Space Toasters, which, like I said, were a high school band that Ron had championed. And they were good. They definitely delivered the goods. And then,
right, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry,
go ahead.
And then Henry Rollins came out and talked about what the Stooges meant to him.
Right, and he was emceeing the show.
Yes.
He was the guy that was kind of, guiding the whole process of the show.
And he was good as always, telling his Stooges
Henry
stories.
Rollins of what band from DC?
He was from SOA, and then of course went on to front Black Flag.
Black Flag. He is, mostly remembered for that great punk band from Washington D.C., Black Flag.
Well, Black Flag was from California. He moved to California to front them, but that's okay.
Okay. Sorry.
Henry was a DC guy, that was connected to the early punk scene in DC of the late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah. I got some great stories about that time too. And also I want to bring up that Johnny mentioned his trip to Australia. We will definitely be doing an episode on that, letting Johnny tell his story about going to Australia to hang out with the guys and tour around with the guys from Radio Birdman.
Yes.
But,
yes, as a matter of fact,
we continue on this show.
Segueing back into the Ann Arbor show, my friend Dennis Tech of Radio Birdman was playing in the show.
Yeah.
And
he was bassist, right?
No, guitar player.
Guitar player. Okay.
He when they played some Ron era songs, when Ron was the guitarist in the band, he filled in for Ron. So when they played Dirt and I can't remember what else they played. I should look up at the set list.
Yeah, go to the set list. Go to the bottom of the page, Johnny. So the musicians on the stage that night were, of course, Iggy Pop, and also Scott Ashton, who was playing drums, and Mike Watt, who was the bass player.
Yes.
And they brought out Steve McCary, right?
The sax player.
Steve McKay. Sorry, I put an R in there. Sorry, Steve. Steve McKay, who was playing the saxophone. And then you mentioned
Dennis Tech.
And this right here also said that James Williamson performed as well.
Yeah, James. They got James back in the band to play guitar when Ron passed. And they were doing Raw Power era tunes. But my friend Dennis was played with the band on TVI, Loose, Dirt, and Real Cool Time, and he just nailed it. And I do remember that at one point Iggy was dancing around on stage and slammed into Dennis and knocked him down. Or no, I guess he didn't knock Dennis down.
Iggy went down,
right? And he was singing from the floor of the stage.
Yes, I do remember.
And we're all worried, like, is he okay? Is he okay? But of course, he's Iggy. He was okay.
Yeah, he got up and continued. And I tried to look to see. I mean, we're going to get into the we're going to get into the set list here a little bit, but I know that toward the end of the show, there were some songs that included an orchestra. Right. So there was an orchestra set up on the stage.
That was amazing. And a lot of people weren't into it, but I thought it was amazing.
Yeah, it was amazing. And, it was kind of a classy touch at the same time to perform those songs with an orchestra.
Yes.
And I was trying to look to see exactly what songs, but we started recording before. I'm sure I could look it up now unless you want to do it.
I don't recollect what songs the orchestra played on, but I believe it was from the first two albums, songs from the first two Stooges albums that the orchestra was also playing on. I should have listened to the recording that I have of the show.
Yes, they did put out a full DVD on this show. Not too long after it happened.
Yes, it was awesome and I'm into DVD. Me and your brother are into DVD. The crowd shots.
I watched it and froze it and saw you guys jumping around with John's a pretty you're a tall guy, and John Carver is also a tall guy. So it wasn't too hard to pick you guys out. uh, in the footage. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. I'm 6'5", and John's got to be what, 6'2" or so.
yeah, he's like 6'2", no doubt. Okay, so what a really great show. I was in the back room listening to it as loud as I could in my headphones and watching it on this little 5-inch monitor. But that's, that's why we went there,
So
was
much
to do
energy.
that.
Yeah. So much energy in
Yeah.
that room. The crowd was giving it as much as the band was. And it was hot, sweaty, good fun. Just a great show. I was so elated during that show. It just really elevated me, to be honest.
Yeah. Right. It was, again, it was a really cool opportunity to be there, and it was a really special show. And I didn't realize it till probably the discussions that we had on the ride home, and the things, you know what I mean, being worn out, and working all those hours, and putting in all that hard work, and you guys, and being there with my sister and my brother-in-law and you and Mike, and uh yeah, it just was a one of the most memorable shows. And we've both seen hundreds and hundreds of shows, and this one is, got to be top 3 for me, if not number 1,
Oh,
just because of the journey, the being there with my brother and my sister's house, and having the success of getting it on the air live, doing a pre-show all by myself.
and
But anyway,
Mike
yeah,
and
go
I
ahead.
got to meet James Williamson, guitarist for the Stooges, the night before the show. He had posted on Facebook that he was going to be at this bar in Ann Arbor, and Mike and I decided we were going to go. So we got a lift from, I can't remember if it was John or Jack that gave us a ride there and picked us up, but they dropped us off at this bar, and we went in and sat, and I got to hang out with Mike, which is always fun. and
Yeah.
and we got autographs from James Williamson. Mike had his Kill City album that he got James to autograph. He might have had a Stooges CD insert too. I know I did. And there was a whole bunch of Ann Arbor celebrities there. My friend Dennis was there hanging out. Scott Morgan of the Rationals and Sonic's Rendezvous Band was there. Hiawatha Bailey of the Cult Heroes was there. And the really cool thing that James Williamson did was he paid for everybody's bar tab that night.
Wow.
He's like, on me. And
Really? How big was the place?
it
Was
wasn't a
there
big
200 people
bar.
in there or something?
Nah, it wasn't
No.
a big place, but he had made some money, I guess. After he left the Stooges, he got into record producing, and then went to work for Sony. He was a VP at Sony,
Wow. That's
and
cool.
he retired as a VP. And so,
So you got to hang out. You got to hang out at the after party.
oh yeah, at the
And I got
Tangerine
to
Ballroom,
at Tangerine
which
Ballroom,
was
and
the old Second Chance place.
well, I have a similar story. I mean, I didn't get to go to the bar and hang out with all the cool old rock folks and get signatures and stuff like that. But I did have a moment where there was a garage door, backside stage, where I had run all my cables and everything to be in this room backstage, and I'm standing there, and here comes Iggy walking up, right? So you can't freak out, you can't ask for, you can't,
No, you got to be
he's
cool.
Iggy, right? And you got to be cool. And I kept my cool, and I was asking somebody there at the venue a question about the setup that I was doing and how it related to the show that was happening that following night. And Iggy, after the rehearsal, was coming out this garage door, and he stopped and asked this guy a question, right? And I just kind of looked over and gave him the head nod, and he gave me the head nod back.
Nice.
And that was it. That was it. I think I was wearing some swag. It was real obvious why I was there. He knew why I was there. We didn't have to say anything to each other. He just he just kind of nodded at
The
me.
laconic
And
Iggy nod.
yeah, right. Like yeah. So that was my big celebrity moment of that night.
Did you run into Henry
And
Rollins at all, or
I
and
think,
tell him, hey, I'm from DC?
they were doing interviews, right? They were doing interviews for the DVD. And I do believe that they had like a setup, like upstairs,
Oh
right?
yeah,
That
yeah.
in the
I remember
lobby,
from the
with
DVD.
lights and
Yeah.
right. With lights and stuff where they were asking people to come and sit down and tell everybody about how special that show is and who Ron Asheton was and what the Stooges meant to them. Right. And it's really well put together, the DVD, if you're a Stooges fan. But I do remember kind of running into him in the lobby. But again, he's busy doing his thing and I'm busy doing my
Right.
thing.
Yeah.
And we may have like locked eyes or whatever going up and down them stairs that were there at some point. But again, I was there to do a job and hang out with you guys. But, it's all business when you're there at the theater. So, and that's cool that we had these experiences.
Yeah, my only regret is that, I got to hang out with Mike, which was always great because he lived in West Virginia and I lived, of course, in Northern Virginia. So I didn't get to see him as often. But I got to hang out with you. And the only thing that was kind of disappointing was you were there to work. So, like, you would leave early in the morning and go to work. And it was Mike and I just hanging out at the house with Pat and John and Rose and Stella and Jack.
Yeah, that was amazing. So do you want to go through the set list?
Oh, sure. Like, they started out with I Got It Right with Henry Rollins after he gave his talk about what the Stooges meant to him. He played with the band doing I Got It Right, which was a blistering version.
Yes.
Then they played Raw Power with Iggy back fronting the Stooges. And then Search and Destroy. And then they did one of my favorite Stooges songs, Gimme Danger.
Yes, one of my favorite songs as well.
And then Shake Appeal. All these songs, of course, are on the Raw Power album. And then they did 1970, which is off the second album, Funhouse. And that's when Steve McKay came out and played the sax parts. And then they did LA Blues, which is also from the second album, Funhouse. And then Night Theme, which wasn't a Stooges song, but was from the Iggy and James Williamson Kill City album. And then they did Beyond the Law, which was also from the Kill City album. And then they did our totally raucous version of Funhouse.
Yes.
Off the eponymous album of the same name. And then they did Open Up and Bleed, which is another one of my favorite Stooges songs. That was never on an official album, but they concocted when they were touring for Raw Power back in the 70s and would have been on the fourth Stooges album had that ever materialized back in the day. And then they did Your Pretty Face Is Going to Hell, which kind of sums it all up.
That was a really brutal version of that song, too.
It was. Yeah. And then they did I Want to Be Your Dog, which, of course, no Stooges set would be complete without. Everybody seems to be aware of that song who has any knowledge of the Stooges.
Yes. Classic Stooges.
And I believe when they played I Want to Be Your Dog, that's when my friend Dennis was subbing in on guitar. And and playing the Ron Asheton bits. And then TVI, which is from the second album, Loose, also from Funhouse, then Dirt, also from Funhouse, then Real Cool Time from the first album. And then Iggy gave a little speech, talk about what Ron meant to him. And him and James had come up with a really nice, I guess they called it Ron's tune. And
Yes.
it was just Iggy.
That's what he called it.
Yeah, it was just Iggy and James on an acoustic lap guitar. It wasn't a lap steel, but it was anyways, just really touching. And they had a video in the background of various pictures of Ron and stuff that they showed during Ron's tune. And then they brought back the full house band, so to speak, for no fun, and invited like half the theater. Right. It seemed like it was on stage for that. It was crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, that was pretty cool. And the Space Age Toasties guys came out as well, and Henry Rollins, and
everybody was on stage.
Everybody came in. Yes. And that was that was really cool set. Again, I think they used the orchestra for I Want to Be Your Dog TVI. Maybe.
I really can't remember.
All right, so our memory is so bad, and this is on DVD.
Yes,
and I'm going to spend the rest of the afternoon. I am going to go buy the DVD. I am going to go watch the DVD to figure out what songs they did use the orchestra for, because I remember that being a really special thing that Iggy basically conducted and arranged that afternoon during the rehearsals, and I really got to watch it. Yeah, there's a whole backstory behind it, but it happened, and he made it happen, and it was a really kind of like, what are we listening to when you've got cellos, and he's singing "I Want to Be Your Dog," and TVI. I just it was really incredible. So any other memories, Johnny? I do remember the journey back home. I remember dropping Mike off.
Yeah.
And spending the night there again. I remember leaving Michigan.
There's a story there about your brother-in-law, John Carver, taking Mike and I to lunch at the place that was a restaurant and not an inn, but a hotel, I guess, that like all the people who had flown in for the show were staying. So Iggy would have been staying there. My friend Dennis was staying there. Everyone else, Mike Watt, blah, blah, blah. We went there to have lunch in hopes of seeing some of the people from the bands, run into them and say hi, but that didn't materialize. But still, it was a good lunch. And
yeah, I wish I could have had lunch with you guys.
Yeah,
I think I got invited, but I was working.
You were busy soldiering along, working, earning your paycheck.
Right. And we have brought up my brother-in-law's name, John Carver, a couple of times. And he was very influential behind the scenes for this show. I believe he was involved in
he's thanked on the DVD.
He is thanked on the DVD, and he's from Ann Arbor and owned a club called Second Chance. That
if you know about Ann Arbor, know the Second Chance.
The Second Chance, and he owned it for many years, and many great artists, musicians went through there, and he definitely had a lot to do with the show happening at the Michigan Theater and things like that, and some of the marketing material, and working with Kathy Ashton to make this night happen. And I would love in a future podcast to get him on here and tell him his side of the story, because this was such a special night, not only for us and the people in my family and my brother Mike, but a lot of people were touched by the Stooges, and everybody from that era who was anybody in rock and roll or who was anybody in punk music, aka Henry Rollins, Black Flag, all those early 80s punk bands were all influenced by Iggy and the Stooges. And I would like to bring John on if he has time to talk about this show, because it was just so special of a night, and there at the Michigan Theater.
Well, I'd just like to thank John, because I wouldn't have been able to go without him. Well, you and John were instrumental in getting me there. You gave me my lift there, and John got tickets so I could see it. And
right, and they fed us and they let us into their home. How gracious! Yes. Let's first thank John Carver and my lovely sister Pat Carver and their family for having us there, and just how fortunate that we were to be able to go see this show.
And special shout out to your nephew Jack for getting me another Sharpie pen when I lost mine.
Oh, really?
He got me a silver Sharpie so Mike and I could get the stuff signed from James Williamson the night we went to the bar to hang out. Yeah. So special shout out to Jack Carver. Thank you, Jack.
Yeah. And Rose for bringing us, Rose Carver for taking care of me and us, water when we needed it,
Rose
anything that we wanted inside the theater.
After the show, when I was totally spent, and she's like, "You look like you could use a bottle of water," and I was like, "Oh yes, please."
Yes. Once she knew where I was, she would come back and check on me occasionally just to make sure that I was taken care of.
Oh, that's nice.
Because throughout the show, you work 16-hour day or whatever with these shows, and you got to be fed, and there's catering. And she always made sure that I knew when food was being served, so I could stop what I was doing, and because you have to, it's part of life. You got to stop. And
do it. Yeah. So that's important to stay fueled.
All right. Well, that's this episode here on the Suffering Meatball Chronicles. It was a show that we saw in Ann Arbor, Michigan. It was a tribute to the late great Ron Asheton of the Stooges, and it was more of a celebration of Stooges music and that community from the late '60s into the early '70s that really created, as far as I'm concerned, and I know you feel the same way, created what was the punk scene in the early '80s here in America, and then which turned into metal, being influenced by other, all the British wave of metal that came at the '80s, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, all these great bands creating metal and changing my life forever. That's for sure.
Yes. God thank the Stooges. Or should I say thank God for the Stooges?
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Yes, thank you. And that's a wrap on this episode of Suffering Meatball Chronicles. Thanks for rolling through the memories with us, no matter how fuzzy the details were. We might not get every date right or remember every band name perfectly, but the energy, the stories, that's what really sticks. This show is all about celebrating the magic of live music, one meatball memory at a time.
Until next time, keep your ears open, your heart loud, and never trust your set list memory after beer number 3.
Or 4 or 5.
Or 4 or 5, yeah, depending on how many you had in the parking lot before.